40,000 years ago, the temperature outside was minus 40 degrees. No houses. No fire that lasted. No jackets from a store. Just skin, bone, and whatever animal they could kill that week. And somehow, they didn't just survive one night of this. They survived for thousands of years, through the coldest period Earth has ever seen. By the end of this video, you'll know the exact tricks that kept them alive, and one of them is something you're probably doing wrong right now, even with central heating. This was the last ice age. Glaciers as tall as skyscrapers, sea levels 120 meters lower than today. And in the middle of all this ice, small groups of humans, walking, hunting, and somehow staying warm enough to not die in their sleep. Here's the strange part. Their brains were the same size as yours. Their bodies got just as cold as yours would. So how did they not just freeze? Turns out, they had 4 survival tricks. And trick number 3 is the one that still saves lives today. Trick 1. Clothing. Not the kind we imagine, just a fur thrown over the shoulder. We're talking layered, tailored clothing, sewn together with bone needles and animal sinew thread. Mammoth and reindeer fur were the best, hollow hairs that trapped air like a thermos. Some groups even made underwear out of fur, because exposed skin against cold air for too long means frostbite in under an hour. Here's the part that surprises people. Making one full winter outfit could take weeks. Skinning, scraping, drying, sewing, an entire family's survival depended on someone's sewing skills. Bad tailoring wasn't just embarrassing back then, it was a death sentence. You'd think fire solved everything, it didn't. Wood was scarce in a frozen, mostly treeless landscape, so they burned something else: animal fat and bone. Bone actually burns slowly like a candle, and it was often the only fuel available for hundreds of kilometers. Keeping a fire alive wasn't a one-person job. Someone was always awake, always feeding it, always protecting it from wind and snow. Losing the fire in the middle of winter wasn't an inconvenience. Entire groups have been found frozen because their fire went out one night. And this is where it gets interesting. They didn't sleep in open air around the fire. They dug into the ground. This is the trick that still works today. And you're probably already using a version of it without realizing. They dug shallow pits into the ground and built shelters over them, using mammoth bones as a frame, covered with hides and packed snow. Snow, it turns out, is an insulator. Trapped air pockets inside, snow keep heat in. The same reason igloos work. The ground itself stays warmer than open air in extreme cold, because soil holds heat better than wind-exposed air. So the actual trick: get below the wind, not just away from it. That's why basements stay warmer than attics. That's why animals burrow instead of standing in open fields during a storm. 40,000 years later, the physics hasn't changed. You're just using a blanket instead of a mammoth bone roof. Here's the one nobody expects. The biggest survival tool wasn't fire or fur or shelter. It was other people. Ice Age humans lived in groups of maybe 20 to 50. Too small, and there weren't enough hands to hunt, sew, or keep watch through the night. Too big, and there wasn't enough food. Groups regularly met other groups, sharing meat, sharing mates, sharing knowledge of where the last herd was spotted. A person alone in this environment had almost no chance. A person in a group had people to share body heat with at night, people to wake them if the fire dimmed, people to drag them back if they collapsed in the snow. Isolation wasn't just lonely back then, it was usually fatal within days. So now you know the 4 tricks. But there's one detail that nobody talks about, the one that decided who actually made it through winter and who didn't. It wasn't the strongest who survived the Ice Age. Skeletons from this period show something unexpected: elderly individuals and people with healed injuries that would have made them unable to hunt for months. They survived anyway. That means Someone fed them. Someone kept them warm. Someone carried them when they couldn't walk. Groups that cared for their weakest members survived longer than groups that didn't, because those older members held the knowledge of where water was during droughts, which plants were poison, which valleys held shelter during the worst storms. Cold didn't kill the weak first. It killed the selfish groups first. So remember that trick I said you're probably already using? It's this: getting below the wind, staying close to others, sharing warmth instead of facing the cold alone. 40,000 years later, that's still the only reason any of us are here. If you made it this far, you survived the video longer than some of them survived their first winter.